Welcome back to the Humble Market Timer YouTube channel. Once again, if you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. In today's video, I wanted to focus on a company that I think will do well into the first half of 2026. And that company is United States Antimony Corporation. Now, I did a video on United States Antimony Corporation about 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago. It was this video here back when it was about a little over $5 a share, and the video was titled, could UAMY, which is their ticker symbol, could it double even after it had moved 500%? And what actually ended up happening is about 3 weeks after that video, not only did UAMY double, it quadrupled. So it basically went from a little over $5 to close to $20 in about 3 weeks. So I wanted to not do a follow-up on that video, but I think after some time where the stock has had a chance to come back down to earth after a massive move, how now might be a good time to potentially get back in the stock for a nice potential push heading into the first quarter and second quarter of 2026. So before I go any further though, please check my disclaimer in the description. Once again, these are my sole ideas, not investment advice. Now, as I mentioned before, UAMY, or United States Antimony Corporation, made a massive move in 2025. It was actually trading just over 50 cents as early as November of 2024. So just in actually in less than a year, it went from just over 50 cents to almost $20. So we're talking about a crazy move in UAMY, or United States Antimony Corporation. And when you have a move that big, that fast, of course, you're going to have a big pullback. And that is exactly what we have had. But sort of what spearheaded the big move was the conflict that we had in China. They had put some restrictions on a lot of the key minerals that they export. And so as a result, that caused a lot of those critical minerals that are produced in the United States to really have a skyrocket in price. And UAMY was one of the beneficiaries of that. What put the company really into maximum overdrive was when all of a sudden Trump and the U.S. government decided that they wanted to start investing in many of the U.S. producing companies of these critical minerals. So that was really the cause of the massive push in a lot of these names. But as I said, they have finally come back down to earth to more reasonable price to sales ratios or price action. But I do want to point out one thing that's sort of kind of been swept under the rug. We all know that the U.S. and Trump and China sort of came to a bit of an understanding, and that China would kind of take back some of the restrictions they put on a lot of these critical minerals. But kind of what was not done was, if you kind of look here, this was something that was put out by the Ministry of Commerce of the People of the Republic of China, where basically, even though they did pull back the restrictions regarding exports of their critical minerals to other parts of the world, what they also did, but again, kind of got swept under the rug, was the fact that they ratcheted up the criteria for different companies to qualify to have their items exported to other parts of the world. So even though the overall restrictions to the U.S. and maybe other areas was relaxed because they've maxed out the red tape and made it a little more difficult for certain companies to be able to export. That in itself is going to act as a restraint and put restrictions on what we would be able to get in the U.S. from an export standpoint. So you kind of have to weigh those two things. And United States Antimony Corporation, they tried to kind of detail that in one of their X posts, where they tried to verify that, yes, we came to an understanding with China and, the restrictions have been relaxed, but this will still be an issue moving forward. And so they tried to bring that to people's attention. And that was back in early November. So you have that to kind of still have problems. We're still going to have problems with certain critical minerals. And for this particular announcement, it dealt specifically with silver, tungsten, and antimony. So you can look for in 2026 for there still potentially to be a tightening supply in at least those three main critical minerals moving forward. So that sort of acts, in my opinion, as a catalyst for there to be another push in companies that are related to those industries or to those critical minerals. And then we had recent news, as recent as I meant last week, where the U.S. stated that, or one of the White House officials stated that the U.S. plans to take more stakes in those mineral companies. So even though back in September, October, we had a series of announcements by the government where they took stakes in many of these mineral companies, what they're saying here is that you can see that happen again as we move forward. So with all those things being said, let's look at the price action of UAMY. As you can see here, we had a massive spike and then we pulled back quite a bit. I drew this sort of parallel right here to kind of show you the price action of UAMY and how it stayed in this price action for a while and then it broke through. But I talk a lot about symmetry on my channel. You can see the symmetry that was involved in the move up and how it pretty much mirrored itself on the move down. We see that constantly. That's one of those things that you're going to always see when you're looking at different charts and those big high rising moves by those stock tickers. So that's one thing I always like to point out on my channel. So looking forward, I want to just draw one other line that's kind of taking my attention. I see you have sort of a line here and you're starting to see action sort of here. And so this, I think, may also temporarily represent as a bit of area of resistance for UAMY based on this chart analysis that I'm seeing here. I think first we have to establish ourselves back above this parallel. We worked our way into it on the steep decline, but the latest news of the fact that the White House officials stated that they'll be buying or investing and taking equity stakes in more mineral companies kind of caused the spike, this recent spike that we had here. I'm expecting there to be a bit of consolidation after that bounce off the bottom. I'm looking for us to consolidate around this top part of this long parallel, maybe push back a little bit inside the parallel, but focus more around the top. And then eventually I think we will bounce to this line here, which I think will act as some resistance. But if we break that, I think the target that you're looking for is going to be, if I draw a little parallel here, I think it will be in this area right here. And I point to that area in particular because you can see how there was a big gap right here that occurred in the drop. And in many instances, when you're looking at technical analysis and charts, oftentimes gaps get filled. And this is a pretty sizable gap that if we do get another push in UAMY, which I am expecting, I believe the push could go at least up to this gap that we had on the way down. I want to point out one other thing. I'm also kind of keeping my eye on the potential for a head and shoulders breakout move. You have a shoulder here, and then I believe this is possibly the process of a head right here. We may have some action here and some resistance in this area, but I think we could get back to about right here, maybe get another rejection, but then we will work our way back up to that $10 to $11 range. If we get another push, I believe the next real big push that we would have potentially in UAMY would be if there's another pop in antimony prices due to that restriction that I talked about earlier in the video, or if we see the government go on another buying spree of those critical minerals companies. Even if UAMY isn't one of those companies, I do believe that they will have a nice push and effect from the government buying those types of companies once again. So be on the lookout for UAMY again in the next 3 months or so. I think you could see a nice push back up to that $10 to $11 range. That would be about a double from where we are now. Keep an eye on it, maybe a little less than double, maybe 80% to a double from where we are now. And I think this could be one to really pay attention to in that first half of 2026. Hope you liked the video. If you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.